folks coming in from some different areas, but we've got enough. We have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started.
We'll find out for sure.
Yeah, we'll double check here in a second. But at this time, call Madam President to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Please stand. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Hodge, would you call the roll, please?
Sure will. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking time out to be here and help us through this process today. The devices are open. If you could please mark yes that you are here. Give you about 20 seconds to take care of that, and then I will start calling names that I don't see marked, and we'll make sure who's here. About 5 more seconds. If you hear your lead called, please shout out, and let's make sure we get your device working before the next vote. Academy, Agape, Ambassador, Arrowhead, Baseline, Camino Real, Channel, Coast Valley, Condor, Del Rio, Express, Frontier, Gold Coast, Golden, Heritage, Independence, International, Jolie-Condona, Liberty, Marmonte, Mulholland, Olympic, Omega, San Joaquin, South Coast, South Valley, Tri-County Premier, Tri-Valley, Victory, and Western. Anybody else?
You just had somebody come in the door there.
Someone that just walked in, if you could hit your voting device so we can know you're here. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. This time we'll entertain the introduction of guests. Mr. Simmons, do we have any guests today?
Not at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you. If we could, we'd like to recognize the actual leader of the pack from the Sacramento office, Brian Seymour. Would you stand up, please? Welcome. Thank you for representing the office. It's always a pleasure to see you. Those of you that don't know, he has a son that's in law school, so if you need an attorney in a couple of years, he's the guy to see. Would the executive committee please stand, be recognized, and introduce yourselves? We'll stand up. We'll start back there with Mary Jane.
Hello, Mary Jane Bird, Alicia Sievers, Bill Media.
Terry Barnes, Matt Larstrack. Lucian Howard,
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate your service. This time we'll adopt the agenda. We do have a change in the agenda. We are going to pull the non-action items set in section 683, and we're going to pull set in section 684. We're pulling those at the request of the makers of those two motions. So those will no longer be on the agenda that we will vote on right now. So that being said, with those two motions being pulled, 683 and 684, we would entertain a motion to accept the agenda at this time.
Motion, Big A.
We have a Big 8 motion to approve. Do we have a second? Southwest, a second. Call for the question, please.
Voting is open. Five seconds. Voting is closed. Motion carries 63-0-0.
Thank you. We can do business. This time we'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 30, 2025 council meeting.
Motion, Big A.
Big 8 working hard up here.
Second, Southwest.
San Andreas is a second. It's like a contest here or what? We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, call the question, please.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 63-0-0.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here for public comment? We would recognize anyone here with the opportunity to make a public comment. Seeing none, move to the non-action items. State Federated Council, there are no non-action items at this point. The seventh section, non-action items, both of those items have been pulled from the agenda, and we understand that they may be resubmitted in the fall of next year. But those have been, both have been pulled. That brings us to the state action items, which there are 6. We'll ask Madam President, come forward, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We have several of these to get through today, and hopefully you had some good discussion with the people. What's that? Oh, sorry. Hopefully you have already had some good discussion, but we will take the opportunity to go through these. So first one we are going to go through is the proposed 25-26 CIF state budget. And this one was voted by the executive committee as 1900. The highlights of this is a 5% staff salary increase for the budget coming up. The objective of this was to make the staff salaries more competitive in the state region, and actually just bring them up to be where they'll be able to have staff retention and recruitment. And it would be comparable with the salaries in similar organizations and sectors. So before we move into discussion, I'll open it up for a motion and a second to lead into discussion before we vote.
So move, Skyline.
Thank you, Skyline.
Second, Southwestern.
Thank you. It's open for discussion. Okay, good talk. Can we call to question, please?
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 6301.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the second one, CIF State Executive Committee nominations. The Executive Committee voted 18-0-0, and this was so that that we would go to the state with being uninstructed to make the vote. Currently, there are no Southern California nominations. Paula, Terry, and Erica all already serve on this state committee, and so what? I did say Terry. Terry, I didn't forget you. I got you. Terry, he's here. All right. They all serve on this committee, and so at this time, with no Southern California or Southern Section nominations, then we would ask to vote to go uninstructed. So before we move into discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion, Big A.
Thank you. And a second?
Second, Southwestern.
Thank you. All right. Any discussion? It's hard to figure out what an awkward wait time is, right? Like, I think we're good.
Nailed it.
I nailed it. All right. Here we go. Call the question, please.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 6303.
Okay, number 3, proposed revision to bylaw 2702, state soccer championships. Executive Committee voted 19-0-0 to approve this. This proposal aligns the state soccer championships with basketball championships, putting them on the same weekend and dates at the same area location. Some of the benefits would be potential cost saving as well as streamlined event management. Some considerations is it does extend the soccer season for one more week. And so before we open it up for discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion, Big A.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Southwestern.
Thank you. Okay, it's open for discussion. Okay, please call the question.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 55-8-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 4, proposed revision to bylaw 1900, which is the cross-country divisions at the state level. Executive Committee voted down this proposed revision 3-16-0. The proposal would add an additional cross-country division similar to the San Joaquin section model, and it would, the purpose is to allow small schools to compete in a more equitably with larger Southern section schools. With that, I'll take a motion for discussion. Thank you, Rob. Second? Thank you. Okay, opened up for discussion. Okay, thank you. Could we call to question?
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion fails, 24-41-1.
Okay, thank you. Next one is proposed revision to bylaw 209.C, which has to do with disciplinary transfers. Executive committee voted this revision down 8 to 10 to 0. The objective was to create clarity regarding disciplinary discrepancies between public and private schools. This revision is coming from the Central Coast section. And the key change to consider would be the limit of disciplinary transfer restrictions to only Ed Code 48915. And before we open it up for discussion, can I get a motion?
Motion begin.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Do you know who that is?
Second, Sunvalley.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, this is open for discussion before we vote. Okay, Ms. Hodge, please call the question.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion fails, 23-41-1.
All right, moving on to our last state action item. This is the proposed revision to bylaw 503.M, and this is the ejection policy update. And so what this would look like, executive committee voted in favor of this change, this revision, 18-0-0. The proposal would align suspension policies for coaches and spectators following ejections. For coaches, it could be a suspension of 1, 2, or 3 games as determined by the commissioner. But for spectators, it would be an automatic 3-game suspension for ejections. And so before we open it up for discussion, can I get a motion?
Motion, Southwestern.
Thank you. And a second? Skyline, thank you. This is open for discussion. Okay, Ms. Hodge, go ahead and call the question.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 43-22-0.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes our state action items. Mr. Perry?
We'll see if we can get through these quick enough. Apparently, everybody here has early tea times, so we'll try to get you out of here as soon as possible. In the southern section, the action items section, state the seventh section proposed budget for 2025-26. We'll entertain a motion to approve. Big eight motions to approve. We have a second. Second from the Southwest. Is there any discussion on the 25-26 budget? You sure? We'll call the question.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 64-0-0.
Thank you very much. These next two items are a little bit, we need to make sure we do this without any mistakes in terms of the parliamentary procedure in which we vote on this. So, Mr. Commissioner, if you'd explain this to us real quick so we make sure we get it right.
Happy to do so. First off, I want to thank everybody that was able to make it here to be a part of this. It's an important opportunity and responsibility really for our schools and our leagues to be here and vote. But to let you know, we barely made the quorum, but we do have a quorum if anybody was curious. Recognize that particularly in the spring there are some probably spring break issues and things that might interfere, but the fact that I appreciate you guys showing and encourage everybody to reach out to their colleagues as well, because it's important that we are able to hear and make some of these important decisions as a collective, as opposed to just a fraction of our membership taking place. So when it comes to this, the official fees proposal, we have an amendment that was put forth as a written amendment after this was submitted. So the parliamentary procedure for this is we're going to ask for a motion in a second for the original fees proposal to be discussed. Once that's open, then there'll be we'll ask for a motion in a second to approve the amendment to the original proposal. At that point in time, there will be an opportunity for discussion about the amendment. And assuming there is discussion, once that discussion is concluded, there will be a vote on the amendment to be either added to the original proposal or not. If it is added to the proposal, there will need to be an additional motion in a second to adopt the original proposal with the amendment. If the amendment is not voted on, then discussion goes straight to the original proposal and is voted on at that point in time. Okay? So that's, I know, it's the way we just got to do it. So, Mr. President, take it away.
So if we could entertain a motion to approve the officials fee proposal. 680. We have a move to approve. Do we have a second?
Second, Southwest.
We have a move to second. Here on the side we have Mr. Dearborn and Mr. Maida that can speak to both of these issues. So at this time, Mr. Dearborn,
No, they're not going to speak. They're just here for questions.
are there any questions for them? Okay,
We need to move for these.
so now we need a motion to approve 680A.
Motion to approve the amendment.
We have a motion to approve the amendment?
Second, San Andreas.
And a second from San Andreas. Discuss the amendment.
Now it's discussion.
Now we have any discussion on the amendment of 680A? Okay, hearing none. Call for the question.
On 680A.
680A, the amendment. We'll call for the question on 680A, the amendment.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 65-10.
Now we need to have a motion and a second for the original amendment, the original proposal with the inclusion of the amendment.
Now we need to have a motion, please, to approve the original officials fee proposal with the inclusion of 680A.
Motion, Southwestern.
We have a motion to approve from Southwestern. Second, Big A. Any discussion? on the voting issue of the officials fee agreement along with the amendment 680A. Hearing none, we'll call the question, please.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 66-0-0.
Thank you very much. Go to the final action item. Item number 682, dual meet wrestling division formula. We have a motion to approve. Big 8 motions to approve. Do we have a second?
Second, Southwest.
Southwest seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? That's 682, dual meet divisional formulas. Hearing none, we'll call the question.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion carries 56-3.
Thank you very much. Finished our action items. Time for our reports. The treasurer's report.
Okay, the treasurer's report. We just concluded the 23-24 audit of the, conducted by an outside company, and I had a really neat opportunity to be in their debriefing, and as they went through and explained to us item by item all the different things, it was really impressive to hear really the compliments they gave to the CIF-SOUTHERN section and their organization, and particularly to Mitch Carty. Just what a great job he does, keeping everything by the book and keeping us extremely on the up and up, and everything is very, very tight. So this outside company came in and they gave the highest possible recommendation that we could get for an audit. So congratulations to Mitch and the entire team down at the office. That's a big win, and that's an amazing thing. So what will happen is, the audit completed on March 20th, and then the nonprofit tax return will be the final step. It's called a 990. Current profit and loss for 24-25. Revenue would be $7,119,538, includes accounts receivable. Expenses is $5,457,352, and net profit of $1,662,196. The winter profit splits and expenses not yet distributed, and spring playoffs yet to occur. So, moving on to the current year sports performance. Ticket sales for fall and winter playoffs is down 68,700 tickets compared to last year, 23-24. Sports revenue, fall and winter playoffs, off budget projections by approximately $75,275. Spring season left to complete. Our investment reserves, our current balance as of March 25th, 25 is $3,974,250. Interest and dividend gained of $158,817 in this fiscal year so far. this will conclude my report. Right?
Yes,
Okay. We don't vote on it? No.
it's a report.
Oh, it's a report. I don't do this one.
It's obvious that I am not Madam President Votis. She had some things that she needed to deal with in her district, being a superintendent. She just couldn't arrange. So, as the President's report, a couple things. One, congratulations to all of our winter sports for their appearances in the playoffs, their appearances in the 7th section playoffs, and their appearances in the state championships. Again, as always, a tremendous season for everybody. I'd also like to thank those host schools that took care of wrestling, took care of basketball, soccer, water polo, all of those events that took place on campuses, the time and the energy that it takes to put those events on, the strain that it puts on your security people, your custodial people, your ticket takers, your community. Thank you very much for what you do. Every place that I went, we received nothing but tremendous remarks and compliments on our schools, their ability to host events in the highest. Very much for that. Mr. Commissioner.
The recap of the goals. I'm not going to read them word for word. I'm going to talk about where we've been at, where we're at right now, and a few other things beyond that. So, first off, I definitely want to thank our staff, assistant commissioners, program coordinators, everybody in the office for what has been up to this point a great year. We made it through our winter championships again. Thank you to President Perry for putting those out, those thank yous as well. One more season to go, but it's just a great group to work with. They're really in it for the right reasons. I want to talk a little bit about the same season playoff. We've implemented that this year. We're using a couple different data systems in order to provide the rankings. Inside the office, we're very happy with how those have come out. We feel that the output from that, the data has shown that we are having more competitive contests in early rounds as well as late rounds moving forward, and so we're happy with the results of that. That was why all of you voted this in, was to try to help with this type of competitive equity, and we're definitely seeing that. Doesn't mean we're not going to continue to evaluate our processes and make tweaks, because that's going to be happening as we continue to move on. But as far as the first year and first 2/3, if you will, of our season, we're very happy with where things are at and where we're going. So thank you for that support. The health and safety bylaws have been implemented. A lot of you guys felt that in the fall, obviously, with our heat indexes, with wet bulb load, the air quality index 151. A lot of questions coming into the office, a lot of wrangling, if you will, of getting used to the rules, but ultimately they are for the student safety. And I think there was some adjustments made on the fly with what categorized, or the categories certain schools were at based upon their area and their environment. Those things were able to be handled on the fly with that. Thank you to Brian Seymour for working with us on that. As well as the EAPs and the AEDs at the high schools. We were able to donate 335 AEDs to schools that requested it, and we believe that implementation has gone well as well. So thank you to the schools for that. In the midst of relieving, area placement came through very, very smoothly. Many of you, actually we have one area that completed their relieving already. How fast that goes. Many of you are going to be involved in that in the next few weeks or months. The deadline for submission for your plans is going to be June 19th, and any appeals to those results will take place in the fall, but we're working on that. Official Cs, thank you very much. We concluded that with the unanimous support for that. I want to thank Rob Dearborn and Tom Simmons for their leadership in that endeavor. Always, every 3 years, it's a interesting process to go through. We've provided some additional opportunities for input from the officials groups if they chose to take advantage of that. And by and large, from my experience, it went extremely smooth. So, Rob, appreciate your leadership in that. Very, 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 very well done. Unified sports. We are continuing on with having unified athletes and their partners participate in our swim and our track and field championships. We're actually expanding our track and field championships to 2 divisions, the north and the south. We're going to have the north up in the Ventura area, have some schools take place up there, and then the south, way down in Tribuco, as far as that's concerned. Then we're going to try to expand those, and we actually have opportunities for unified athletes to participate in the state track meet, and the southern section will have 2 entries for that, as opposed to the other sections having 1. So that's great, and we're actually looking at having some form of competition regarding flag football or perhaps some other sports for unified athletes starting next year. So we're investigating those possibilities. Student Athlete Advisory Council, our first meeting is going to be next week. We've identified, we actually put it out for students to apply themselves. It wasn't about schools providing your nominee. It's about individual students. If you wanted to be a part of this, let us know why and give us some information. We had over 100 applications that ended up coming in. We made a selection of 18 students. We ended up with 18 there, and almost every area of the southern section is being represented. And we're very excited about it. We're hoping that we can not only help build leadership experiences for these students, but provide for them to provide their insight on the things that we're doing in the office and as a whole for the section. And so I'm very intrigued by the possibilities there, and we're going to be moving forward with that. Beginning of the year, or right before winter season, we put out some information to assist with some crowd control issues that might take place. Overall, I didn't hear too many problems this year, which was good. Can't say I can directly attribute it to the things that we put out, but we do have some additional resources for our member schools in that. And then finally, in our digital content, we have made some commitments to having an actual television broadcast that's going to be on a regular basis. It has been on a regular basis, called CIF-SS this week. Taylor Martinez is the producer and videographer and interviewer, and pretty much the entire process for that. And it's something that will continue to move forward with that. We're anticipating some additional opportunities and perhaps some new channels that it might be on. So stay tuned for that. We're hoping that this will continue to grow and continue to provide opportunities for our athletes and our schools to be exposed in a much greater perspective. So that's a brief summary of my goals. A couple extra things as far as my report is concerned. The fire emergency transfers. It's been decided that the fire emergency transfers will be allowed to be accepted through the end of June. Once June 30th hits, there won't be any more automatic, if you will, because there's still some things going on in Palisades High School in that area that are still fluid, if you will. But once we hit June 30th, it will be on a case-by-case basis as to whether something will be approved or not. And that's supported at both the LA City section and Southern section with the guidance from the state office as far as that's concerned. So stay tuned on any of those things. Again, if you ever have any questions, let me know. And finally, I want to give a synopsis on some of the transgender issues that are taking place and kind of how those are affecting the state and the Southern section. So, as you're all aware, the president had an executive directive, if you will, that all states address the transgender issue by eliminating the option for transgender students to participate in athletics, high school level, college, and so on. There were some specific states that were identified specifically for this type of thing, and an OCR review would take place. Maine being one, Minnesota being one, and California. But the interesting thing is that it was the Maine Department of Education, I believe it was the Minnesota Department of Education, but it was the California Interscholastic Federation, not the Department of Education in California, that was identified for this OCR review. So that makes things very interesting in that regard. The process at this point where the state is at is there was a deadline for submission for the report back to OCR for their review, and that was last week. The report has been submitted. It is under review right now. The state is awaiting for comment and In theory, when you are dealing with OCR, it's actually a collaborative discussion that takes place to find solutions to what has been identified. We're not sure exactly how this quote-unquote collaborative conversation will go. We're waiting on those types of things. The potential, just so that you know, obviously, is if it's determined that the CIF eliminates is no longer allowed, if you will, to have transgender entities participate, it doesn't eliminate the state law. The state law will still be in place if, for some reason, we as an entity, whether are mandated or for whatever reason the language goes away that transgender athletes can participate, which will put schools in a bind, because are you following state law, or are you following CIF guidance? You know, the whole purpose is, and you haven't heard a lot necessarily from the state, because there's a lot of things working back behind the scenes as far as discussions with state office and a lot of things, but the bottom line has been to try to do the best we can to sort of support our member schools. And so to try to do things, there's private decisions and options that have been discussed, but the bottom line is we're going to do the best we can to support you guys. And what that might end up coming down to is obviously court orders and legal lawsuits that might end up taking place. Again, we're waiting probably another week or two until we hear from OCR, and then we'll see where things go from there. So it's likely to be some activity, if you will, in the next couple weeks to a month. So stay tuned. We'll try to keep you as informed on where things stand in that regard, and try to provide as much guidance as we can when you are working with and dealing with these types of issues. So if there's any questions that anybody has, I'd be more than happy to entertain. Yes?
I have a question on one of your other topics. Have the students been notified that were accepted to your student council?
Yes, the students that were accepted and those that were that applied but weren't accepted have all been notified personally. Any other questions? He's coming in and out. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
In your packets on the agenda, you see the advanced planning dates. You see that our next meeting is September 25, 2025 in this room. So this, in fact, is our last meeting of the year. So with that being said, first of all, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do for education-based athletics. Thank you for what you do in your communities and to kids in your area that depend upon your leadership and your commitment to education-based athletics. I want to thank the staff, the Southern Section Office staff, the assistant commissioners, and everybody involved in the office there. They do a remarkable job. Thank you for your commitment. Please have a safe and restful summer. Those of you that are traveling, travel safely and enjoy. And we will see you all back here on September 25. I think we may have set a CIF Southern Section record. Is it close? Do I have a motion to adjourn? I know we have a CIF record for motions made today. We have a second. And I'm sure there's no discussion. That being said, we're officially adjourned. Thank you for setting a CIF record.